Discover the power of truth, power and glory, the podcast. Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Power and Glory, the podcast, the fastest rising, soon to be hottest wrestling podcast across the airwaves. And I'm joined today by my partner in justice, WWE and WCW legend. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome back, Mr. Paul Roma.
Hey, thank you. What a great introduction. Is my head, still here? Like, I want to make sure it's still in the camera because, you're going to make it so big, it's going to just swell up and no one's going to be able to really see what's going on. No, seriously. Yeah. But thank you. And this is a great podcast. We're touching on so many subjects, so many different people, and we keep it real.
Yeah.
And that's what the people want to see. That's what they want to hear. That's what we're going to give them. Keeping it real here. So, yeah.
Absolutely right. We're talking truth here in pro wrestling, but not just pro wrestling. Like Paul said, we've got various other topics, and today we'll be covering some of those. But of course, wrestling fans, you're joining us. So let's talk a little bit of wrestling first then, Paul. Some people, although a lot of people do remember the infamous match that you had at SuperBrawl 5 with Alex Wright, the young whippersnapper from Germany. So now that had some controversy surrounding it. And you and I have talked about that off camera. So tell me, Alex Wright comes into the business. This was what, 94. You're already as well established at that time. You're with Pretty Wonderful, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. You've been part of Power and Glory, the Four Horsemen. Now they've got you in a match with Alex Wright. And tell us what the communication was with you to begin with when you first found out that they wanted you to do the job to Alex Wright.
Well, so people bring people up to speed. So Eric Bischoff really didn't run the show for WCW. It was mostly Ric Flair.
Oh, okay.
That called a lot of the shots. So the agreement that Eric Bischoff and I had was that I would get beat, go around with Alex Wright, teach him, get him, bring him up to speed. But you'll never get beat on TV. No pay-per-views. You're not going to get beat. And that was the agreement we had. And he said, is that good? And I said, yeah, that's great. Not a problem. I'll get beat in the arenas. No big deal, but no pay-per-views, no TVs. And he said, great. That's the agreement that we have. So when it had come up, the show, I walked into the locker room and I saw my name on the board. And normally, the people on the left side are the ones that are going to win, and the people on the right side are doing the job. So I was on the right side, and I went over to Rick, and I said, hey, Rick, what's going on? And he says to me, well, they want Alex over. And I said, what do you mean they want Alex over? And he says, the office wants him over. And I said, well, that's not the agreement that we had. He goes, well, that's what they want. And I was like, really? Okay, no problem. So I walked away, and I was obviously really heated.
Yeah.
So when I come through the curtain, Marty Elias, whose real name is Marty Rubalcaba, he referees. He refereed for WWF and a bunch of organizations. Yeah. And so I used to call him Ruby. That was the nickname I had for him. So when I walked through the curtain, I said, and the camera could hear me because I watched it. I said, this is all about respect, Ruby. And it's nothing to do with the match. It had nothing to do with Alex Wright. And I've had this conversation with Alex. And I told him, I said, dude, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it just happened that way.
Yeah.
We had an agreement. They null and voided that agreement, and it wasn't personal. It was to protect my reputation.
Yeah.
So I went out. I kicked out on 2.5. I went out there and basically took the entire match from Alex Wright.
Mhm.
Young kid, didn't really know what to do, right? I mean, I'm the veteran.
Mhm.
And yeah, they sent me my, we don't need you anymore papers. Finish out your tour
Mhm.
and then we're done with you. So I was like, okay,
Wow.
that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I went to Germany after that, they said, had you gotten beat by Alex Wright, you wouldn't be here in Germany and
Mhm.
you wouldn't be champion.
Mhm.
So that just solidified what I was thinking in my head, that I need to protect me.
Yeah.
This kid's young. He's up and coming. They could do whatever they want to push him.
Mhm.
Me, no.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I did what was best for Paul.
Yeah. Because at that time you were at your prime. I mean, Alex was what? He was like 20, 21. He was very young.
Yeah, he was a baby. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time. So what you're saying then is Ric Flair, because this is news to me. So Ric Flair was calling the shots even way back then in '94 in WCW.
Yeah. And then because, Rick and I, we didn't get along.
Hmm.
I mean, people can say what they want. I'm telling you the truth. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I can only surmise, what he had against me.
Hmm.
Um, and I've said that on other interviews, but he just, yeah, we just didn't get along. I just couldn't figure out why, but
Yeah.
we didn't get along.
Hmm.
And so, he pulled the string. It
Hmm.
wasn't Eric Bischoff. If
Okay.
it was Eric Bischoff, Eric should have come to me and said, "Hey, listen, null and void the deal that we have.
Hmm.
I'm not a man of my word. Um, I changed my mind. We're
Hmm.
going this route, this direction."
Yeah.
Rick called me up at my home, and he asked me about the match, and I said, "Well, I thought it was a damn good match." He goes, "Well, that's your opinion." I said, "Well, that's other people's opinions too.
Yeah.
People from the office that watched the match,
Hmm.
and other wrestlers."
Hmm.
So he said something to me, and I dropped some bad words back to him and told him I didn't care in so many words, and told him I didn't, who cares,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know um
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, definitely one of the standout matches. It was incredible. I will go to that flying elbow that you delivered off the top rope there. I mean, you gained so much height on that Superfly. Jimmy Snooker would have been jealous. You really flew. You really. Now, was that when you were in that match? Because I remember a moment when Paul Orndorff comes out and he's talking
yes,
to you. So, what was Paul saying to you when he came out?
it was just garble.
Oh, okay.
It was
Just
just garble, yeah.
okay.
And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. It was like it took forever
Mhm.
for Alex to drop kick me in the back and run into Paul and
Yeah.
um you know basically give me a schoolboy.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I was like, man, where is this kid? Where is this kid?
Mhm.
Where's this drop kick? Hurry up. How long can I talk to Paul?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then when I went down and the ref went down, that arm was coming down for the three, I just kind of slid out from under. And obviously I believe he hit his 3 count,
Mhm.
but everybody saw that I was out on 2.5, and
Yeah.
I left it at that.
Yeah.
Listen, it's live TV. There's nothing they can do. And I
Mhm.
said, this is my opportunity.
Mhm.
There's nothing they can do. They
Yeah.
can't stop me. And I know that when I had gotten on a podcast, the um the host had said to me, "Well, Alex said this," and I said, "Listen, you're talking about me in my day,
Mhm.
okay? There was nothing he can do
Mhm.
physically. It was impossible
Yeah.
for him to do anything to me.
Yeah.
I was just and then being pissed on top of it,
Yeah.
that nobody was taking me down.
Right.
It just wasn't happening."
Yeah.
So, without getting into, a pissing match with them, I just said, listen, again, it wasn't against him. I have respect for the kid. He was just in the wrong place and they pulled their stunt, and
Mhm.
he's the one who had to take the grunt of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it.
So when you went backstage, were you still communicating? Did Alex come up to you, or were you just so he
No,
you just
I
left?
I left. I went backstage, grabbed my stuff, changed. Um, and then I went back to the hotel.
Hmm.
I sat down with Paul and I think it was Janie Engel. She worked for WCW at the time.
Hmm.
And somebody came over to me. I forgot what wrestler came over to me and said, "Hey, great match." I was like, "Hey, thanks, man." And Paul goes, "Yeah, that was a great match." And Janie, I go, "Janie, what'd you think?" And she
Hmm.
goes, "I thought it was a really, really good match." And I was like, "You sure?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah." So I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, well, that was it." And
Yeah.
then, like I said, they didn't even have the nerve to call me into the office. They sent me a FedEx to fire me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just shows the kind of, character that they
Yeah.
had. None.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Because again, arguably, you were one of the top talents of that time. There was no doubt. That match, proved that again. I watched it again recently, and it was unbelievably. I mean, you could feel your emotion. It was coming out off the screen. You could see that. Your best.
Here's the thing. You
Yeah.
you know when you ask God for something,
Hmm.
and a lot of people go, "Well, he didn't give me what I wanted." No, he said no.
Hmm.
Okay? So you asked for it and he told you no.
Right.
Well, there's been a lot of times in my life when I've asked for things
Hmm.
and I've gotten it. I've seen it,
Hmm.
whether it's something that happened, but I've seen it. And when I got in that ring that night, I stood there, and when he came in, I said, "I need him to dance
Hmm.
because I need to attack him. I need to be aggressive, and I need him to dance." So when he comes in, he's if you obviously you saw it in the beginning, he's taken this what I consider to be forever to get to his dance. So he's taking his jacket off. I'm like, he's not going to dance.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You were on TV. You dance every time before your match, and now you're not going to dance?
Yeah.
You're killing me. I'm saying to myself over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So when he finally did start to dance, that was for me, in my mind, that was my cue.
Hmm.
So I ran over to him, jumped him, and then I just pressed him over my head
Yeah.
and just dumped him.
Yeah.
I was that jacked up.
Hmm.
I had that much adrenaline because these guys, Ric Flair, mostly Ric Flair,
Hmm.
he had me so riled up inside.
Yeah.
There was no one. I
Yeah.
mean, you could have shot me in the head and it would have bounced off.
Right.
I was just that irate,
Hmm.
and just trying to keep it as professional as I can, even though what I did really wasn't professional.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't try to hurt him
Hmm. Hmm.
physically.
Hmm.
I did what I needed to do to keep my career alive. You're a
Yeah.
young kid. You have a long history. They're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Ric Flair loves you.
Right.
Okay, you're his boy,
Hmm.
and he's going to do what's right, for you. He doesn't like me. Doesn't want to do anything with me. So Paul needs to take care of Paul. And
Hmm.
if people can't understand that, so be it.
Yeah. It's,
It's too bad. But I
it,
had to do what was best for me and my family.
yeah. It sounds like it, in some ways it was the original attempt at a screw job. In many ways, it's reminiscent to the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels thing. Now, having said that, were there any moments when you thought, you know what, I'm not gonna do the job for this guy during the match? Were there any moments when you thought about just walking out or anything like that?
No, no, that's a lie. I did think about pinning him,
Hmm.
where get him in a hole where he can't get out,
Yeah.
and his shoulders just pinned to the mat,
Yeah.
where the whole world, whole pay-per-view can see it.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, I went to the very end. I performed. The crowd was going absolutely ballistic.
Yeah.
Like when I jumped him and I press slammed him, we were they were healed. It was a healed crowd.
Hmm.
They were cheering the hell out of me.
Yeah. They
And
were.
that just fired me up even more,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so yeah. So then at the very end, when I went down for the count, I just said, you know what? The hell with this.
Hmm.
And I popped out.
Hmm.
I kicked off. Obviously they rung the bell, but
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at the tapes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Wow. So before we segue into our next segment here, Paul, right after that, because it was such a performance and you were at the peak of your game, Did WWF at the time come and knock on your door after you left WCW?
No,
Yeah.
WWF and we didn't get along then.
Hmm.
You have to remember something. What the fans have to remember and non-fans have to remember is this. When you're in a business where it's dictated down from, when we use Vince as an example,
Hmm.
okay? So it's channeled down from him.
Yeah.
You have no say in the matter. You're at their mercy.
Hmm.
And when you're a competitor and you're used to um, fighting for real to survive,
Hmm.
whether it's football, basketball, it doesn't matter, kickboxing, whatever it is, bodybuilding, you're out there to win.
Yeah.
But they had control of your life.
Right.
And because I can't, how do I say this? I didn't agree with it,
Hmm.
but I know I had to do it to continue on with my quest.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to eat crow.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And when I got to WCW, I was hoping that it was different, and it did seem different in the beginning. You know what I mean? I walked in as a horseman.
Yeah.
You know you're going to win as a horseman. You know they're going to keep you on top as a horseman. But when you have personality conflicts and you don't know why. Now, I understood why in the WWF is because I wasn't a phony
Hmm.
like 80% of the guys.
Hmm.
I was there for a reason. I wasn't there. Yes, I was there to make money, but I wasn't there for just to make money.
Right.
There was a reason why I was there,
Yeah.
which we explained on our last podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these guys didn't get that. They couldn't understand that. Why aren't you coming out with us and partying, drinking, and drugging? And why? Why aren't you doing this with us? You're not one of the boys. You're right. I
Hmm.
am. Wrestling wise, I'm one of the boys,
Yeah.
and I'll hang out with you guys as one of the boys, but I'm not gonna, go that route.
Right.
And that's what they couldn't wrap their brains around.
Hmm.
So, now I'm the outcast
Hmm.
to them,
Yeah.
but not to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Hercules, I'm not the outcast to him.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuji, I'm not the outcast to him.
Yeah.
You guys do what you want to do. Just, I'm not going to tell on you.
Hmm.
Just stop with the peer pressure. It's never going to happen.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That stuff's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So leave it be. And up until Hercules stood up at when we were at what I call, a room party, he stood up and said, "Hey, listen, man, back off my partner. He
Hmm.
doesn't do that stuff."
Hmm.
Obviously he used choice words.
Yeah.
And when somebody 6'3", 275 that looks like him
Yeah.
tells you to back off,
Yeah.
you usually do what he says,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially when you know that he could snap your neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was never challenged.
Mhm.
The peer pressure, for the most part, backed off a little bit.
Mhm.
And then people started to understand that this is who Paul Roma is,
Mhm.
and he's just not going to. He'll go out to the clubs with us. He'll
Mhm.
go out to the bar with us, and I'll stay there with them for a little bit, and I'll sit at the tables and I'll talk to them. Hell, I'll even buy them a drink.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So again, some people understood, some people never got to understand.
Yeah.
Some people thought I had a bad attitude because, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I really didn't have a bad attitude.
I think that
I,
happens. That happens so much, Paul. Like you said, if somebody is more serious about, like you talked about, family, providing for your family, you wanted to help children, you wanted to work with charities and stuff like that. So you understand that what you're doing can open doors for you to do these other things. But then again, there's that other type of mentality where, they just think, okay, this is really cool. I can get famous and make a lot of money and, do other nefarious activities on the side, which is not where you were at. And I think,
right.
mhm.
And they took that as the bad attitude.
Yeah.
Like, I put my nose to the grindstone, leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission,
Yeah.
but they didn't get that mission. Now, obviously, Hercules did, and Paul Orndorff understood, and Mr. Fuji understood.
Yeah.
But when you're in that, around that, look, I'm on the biggest stage in the world at the time. I mean, you're talking about WrestleMania was just wild. I mean, wrestling, professional wrestling, WWF was top of the charts.
Yeah.
So people took it as, oh, he's got a bad attitude. No, I don't.
No.
I don't. I just have a direction in which I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
And you guys are trying to derail me, is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after all these years, and now I can't get back to that.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. And I'm still now with you going in that right direction.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day,
that's what it's all about.
That's it.
I never gave up. I just never gave up. I didn't let them force me to quit.
Yeah.
It had to be under my terms. And the problem with, both organizations, it was under their terms. They didn't get it. So, if I didn't want to go do something, oh, he's got a bad attitude. Oh, hey, that guy's stuck up. He's conceited. Oh, wrestling's going to his head. Wrong.
Right. Wrong. It's all about perception.
But when you're talking to, Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson and, the guys that are controlling where you're going, they start believing it. And, when I only found this out later on, when I had gone to a show in Cleveland, Ohio, I came into the locker room, and it was a couple floors, and the arena was upstairs, and then downstairs were the dressing rooms, and they had concerts there and everything. It was a big arena. And I walk in, and I got my gear with me, and somebody says, "Hey, Fuji wants to see you," and I think he's really pissed. And I was like, "Okay." So I put my bags down. I'm like, "Does anybody know where he is?" And like, "Yeah, he's upstairs in the arena." So I went up, upstairs. The elevator took me up, and I said, "Hey, Fuji, what's going on?" And he looks at me. He goes, "What did you do?" And I said, "What do you mean? What did I do?" He goes, "What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean? I just got here. What do you mean? What did I do? I got here. Somebody told me that you wanted to see me. I came upstairs to see you. What did I do?" So he says, "What did you say about Harley Race?" And I was like, "I didn't say anything about Harley Race. I love Harley Race. Harley, took me under his wing and helped me and, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "Go see Harley right now and straighten things out." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So I went downstairs to see Harley, and he was sitting in a chair. And he looked up at me when I said, "Hey, Harley," and he gave me that Harley Race, "I want to kill you" look.
Yeah.
It's not a good look by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can we talk?" And he goes, "Come in here." So he brought me into the men's room, and he says, basically like, "What'd you say about me?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, I love you." I said, "You helped me in my career. You've always looked out for me." I said, "I would never say anything about you." He said, "Well, somebody said that you said blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Well, bring that person in here, and I will punch him as hard I could in the bleep, bleep, bleep face."
Yeah.
And that's when he turned to me, and he gives me a big hug. He goes, "It's all I wanted to know." He goes, "I'll take care of it."
Yeah.
So there are guys that were poisoning me because of, and again, what could it be? Jealousy?
Yeah.
Right? If he's out, then that gives me an open spot.
Yeah.
And so that's what really opened my eyes as to what was going on. You're getting backstabbed. That's what it boils down to. You're getting backstabbed. The first time I wrestled Brutus Beefcake, now I am as green as the grass outside. And I was taught, when you get somebody in a hold, show your arms, Paul. They're huge, and flex those biceps. So I get him in a headlock and I pull him back like this, and I'm flexing,
Yeah.
And then, he belly to backs me, and, the match is over and all that. And we get downstairs, and I came down afterwards, right? They win. It was Brutus and Greg the Hammer.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
So, they leave the ring first or whatever happened. All in all, I end up going down to the locker room. And somebody grabbed me and they said, "Hey man, you better watch out." And I was like, "Why? What's up?" They said, "Well, when Beefcake came downstairs,
Yeah.
Hogan said to him, 'Hey, Brutus, you better start going to the gym because he made you look like,'"
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, well, that's not good."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so I'm getting faulted,
Mhm.
for no reason. I'm
Yeah.
getting in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like Hogan. Hogan, he's stirring the pot.
Yeah.
So now I got Brutus Beefcake that doesn't like me because I'm in great shape.
Yeah. You
So
can't
what am
win.
I supposed to do? Become a slob?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah. A lot of jealousy.
But
Yeah. A lot of.
yeah, so then I learned. I learned.
Mhm.
Aside from other things that I wouldn't do for people in the office.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you have it.
Yeah.
So I got as far as I could. Um, I'm very proud of my achievements in the WWF because for what I wouldn't do and what I achieved, people have no idea when they sit at home and they point the finger or they say, "Oh, you're this or you're that," or, "Oh, you're not as good," or you listen,
Mm.
you only won this many matches, but I had no say in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't know what they're talking about, and they have no idea what I went through mentally,
Mhm.
and just the stress factor of constantly avoiding the how we put it, the vice presidents of the office,
Mhm.
their proposals, so
Yeah.
to speak, their
Yeah.
propositions,
Yeah.
when they proposition you and you're trying to avoid them when
Mhm.
you're in a locker room and here they come walking in, you're like, "Oh my God, put your head down.
Yeah.
Don't come over to me. Please don't even talk to me." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was very uncomfortable. They put
Yeah.
their arm around you or,
Yeah.
it's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and the whole time you're just trying to stay that course
Mhm. Yeah.
because you have one mission and one mission only,
Yeah. Yeah. It must.
and you're not going to let anybody stop you. And that's just how it was for me.
Yeah. It
They
must have.
beat me down, and I stayed the course.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like I said, every time you came out on TV, it didn't show. You showed up, you were professional, you were sharp, you were ready to go, and you always put on a great match. And like I said, I don't know why there was so much. I mean, I can stand the jealousy because even as a youngster, even my friends and I, when we were kids, Power and Glory was one of our the favorite team. And we preferred you guys over in many cases over the Legion of Doom and teams like that. So I mean, whatever you were doing, it was working. But it's sad that, like I said, the powers that be decided to squash you guys in the only way they could. But nonetheless, your legacy lives on. That's why we're here today. That's why Power and Glory has been resurrected.
That's
And
it.
speaking of missions, Paul, and segueing onto our next topic, a few weeks ago, as I was telling Paul, ladies and gentlemen, I was captivated by Peter Santinello's. He does a travel series, and he did a piece on the Rock Ministries in Philadelphia, Kensington, to be precise. And first of all, I will say that I've never seen such a place where people are literally dying in the streets from drug overdoses. People are emaciated on the streets. There are needles that loiter parks, and no one can seem to do anything about it. As you know, Paul, in this country, unless you ask for help, they can't just come and remove you. You literally have to ask for. They could watch you dying in the street, but if you're not asking for help, they have to leave you there. It's extremely sad. It's
Yeah.
tragic. But like I said, I was captivated by this piece, and it started with a man who was a boxer. So he had that competitive drive, much like you, Paul. So he could understand about being a competitor. He's Pastor Buddy Osborne, and we've actually reached out to him. He may be joining us hopefully soon for an
Yep.
episode of Power and Glory. They have helped 11,000 kids through sports, arts, music, recreation, and of course, Bible study. So, Paul, have you ever witnessed anybody fight an addiction and overcome it while we're talking about this?
Um, well, I know not nobody in my family.
Mhm.
Um, I've heard of, I've witnessed wrestlers that were addicted,
Yeah.
that just, couldn't get off the bottle
Hmm.
or get off the pills. It's sad. And, I always believe that you can help them.
Hmm.
I refuse to believe that you cannot help them.
Right.
Um, who's the kid from Friends?
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry. Okay. Now, my daughter, 16 years old, very smart, smarter than me, thank God. Yeah, we've had this discussion. And I tried to say to her, you know what? Her name is Emma. I said, you know what, Em? They should have helped him.
Hmm.
And she says, Dad, they tried. I said, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't really believe that they tried. I mean, they were supposed to be a close knit family,
Hmm.
you know. They knew he was doing drugs, maybe not, didn't know what he
Hmm.
was doing, but they knew he was doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're able to go over his house and see him. If you have to tie him down,
Hmm.
do something, sit with him. You guys are retired for the most part, at least that's what I think they are,
Yeah.
right? You've made millions and millions of dollars
Yeah.
from your show, which was a great show.
Yeah.
It still is a great show. She watches reruns all the time. It's
Yeah.
and we laugh.
Yeah.
um, I just think that they dropped the ball. I
Hmm.
mean, for somebody that should have been a family, you guys were what I believe to be a family. If one of my friends, and I'm sure one of your friends, take Mario. If Mario was addicted,
Hmm.
there's no way you're not going to tell me that I cannot stop his addiction.
Right.
If I have to go over his house, I have to tie him down,
Hmm.
feed him,
Hmm.
turn him loose to go to the bathroom or whatever the case may be. I get it done.
Yeah.
If that's your friend, your
Yeah.
family member, you get it done. You do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to get it done. And with the millions of dollars you guys have, it's not like you had to go to work the next day.
Right.
It's not like you couldn't bring in a psychiatrist or,
Mhm.
some doctors to say, hey, find out who he's buying the stuff from. Or if you can't do that, at least shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Here's,
sorry.
well, I'm sorry.
And I was going to say to you, Paul, I mean, coming back to Pastor Buddy Osborne, same thing. He has that never say die. No is not the only answer. You can turn that into a yes, and he keeps persisting. And I agree with you too. You often hear stories, and even in pro wrestling, oh, such and such died because of addiction issues. Well, where the heck were all the other guys that were their supposed friends or tag team partners on TV? Where are they? Where are they when they again? And some of these guys, they sadly they run out of money. Well, where are these other millionaire wrestlers, because there are out there? Where are they? Can they not put their hands in their pockets and spare a few bucks,
Well,
and
where's Vince McMahon, a billionaire,
yeah.
right? He could give his wife $100 million to run for an office.
Yep.
You could think about that. You could have made 100 people in your own state
Hmm.
millionaires.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Give them each $1 million.
Yep.
You could have made them instant millionaires,
Yep.
but you rather blow it
Hmm.
on an office position.
Hmm.
Okay, and it's your money. I
Yeah.
get it. It's your money.
Yeah.
All well and good. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, all these wrestlers that, and now I understand they try and smarten them up on how to, save your money, invest your money,
Hmm.
and don't blow it like everybody else did back in the day, right? For the most part. But where's the help?
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
had the means. He
Yeah.
knew. He loved that the guys were hooked
Yeah.
on drugs and drinking. You know why? Because they needed his money
Yeah.
and he could control them. You do what I tell you to do, you're out of a job. Oh, well, what am I going to do for a job then? Where am I going to go and make this money?
Yeah.
Exactly. It was
Right.
all about control with him.
Wow. Yeah.
He could have helped people. He elected not to help anybody. Think about, Marty Jannetty,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Almost losing his foot.
Hmm. Yeah.
Didn't have money to get an operation.
Hmm.
Vince can't say, I got you covered.
Yeah, I know.
All the years you did for me, you
Yeah.
made me money.
Yeah. Yeah. Very sad. And that is, speaking of Marty, we will have him on as a guest soon, in the future. I've been chatting with Marty. He is getting better, than what he has been. So which is a good thing. But I agree with you there. Situations like that. I think Kamala was another one who, at the end of his life, he lost his legs and other things. And, so many others that you hear, and they're some of them, they're like living in their car. And you're right,
Yeah.
Paul. The guys that made billions off of their backs can't even put their hand in. Like I said, people don't realize, if you gave someone who uses money correctly, $100,000, and it's not a family of four or five, it's just a husband and wife. Do you know how long they could make that last if they live within their means and give them an opportunity to get back on their feet, get a job? It's like, it's amazing how people with money are so greedy. It baffles my mind, Paul.
Here, I have something for our fans. Ready?
Yeah.
Here's a challenge at
Good.
best. If any fan, anybody, I want them to find and send it to us, find one thing that Vince did to help somebody else.
The challenge, Paul.
Just
Great.
find something. Find something.
Great.
Not what his wrestlers did, going to hospitals or doing charity work.
Mhm.
Don't say, well, I set those things up. Wrong again. You did. What did you do?
Okay.
Even what wrestler did you even help? Just find something where
Okay.
he reached out and gave $1 million to a charity
Mhm.
of his choice. 2 million, 5 million. You're a billionaire.
Mhm. Yeah.
Over all those years, how many charities have you helped out?
Mhm.
I challenge our listeners.
Yep, and I'll second that. So anybody watching this, we challenge you to write into us, find one thing that Vince McMahon did to help somebody else that wasn't motivated by his own personal gain, or that wasn't one of the boys going out and doing it on their own volition.
Right.
Something that
St. Jude,
yep.
right? St. Jude.
Yep.
Just I don't Red Cross.
Yep.
You name it.
Yep.
Just think of a charity that
Yep.
he helped. Or look at when Hawaii was burning up.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Did he
yeah.
reach in his pocket? I mean, he's done business over there in Hawaii with the, I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
even help them?
Yeah.
Or right here, when we have disasters in Louisiana or Florida, hurricanes. I mean, you ever hear of him sending fresh water down?
Yeah.
Hell no. He's
Even the
sitting back.
Even the fans, Paul, because that's another thing I wanted to think of. And I'm not gonna name any names, but I've, in my travels, I've met some of the wrestlers from the past. And I'm somewhat baffled sometimes when they don't realize that without the fans, like when I was a kid, I was spending a lot of money on merchandise, which was going into the WWF coffers, which was then part of somebody's paycheck. And they don't realize, I think some of them forget that the fans are the ones that help make their paycheck. And they're not, some of them, either they're ignorant of that, or they know it and they don't care, and they just want more. But I will say, there is something in giving back. As everybody knows, Power and Glory is a podcast of power of the truth. We're not gonna sugarcoat anything, and we want to bring things to people's attention. We want this to be a positive, not a negative. We want it to entertain at the same time too. Yes. Paul, coming back to the Rock Ministries in Philadelphia, because I do want to give them a plug
Yes.
on this episode in Kensington.
Yes.
So if people do want to get involved, go to therockphilly.org, therockphilly.org. You can volunteer. There are short-term missions or there are internships. It's definitely a great cause. You'll be around a passionate individual, like I said, ex-boxer, and who knows, maybe there's a wrestler of the future that'll end up going through the Rock Ministries and training and coming out a great individual to go and help. And like you said, Paul, if we had more people that actually took the route that you did in pro wrestling, understanding that there's a mission to it and you can do good from it, the world would be a better place. Now we'll segue into our next topic, Paul, which
Okay.
is the Cauliflower Alley Club Reunion Awards, which took place this year in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was there. I took my wife kicking and screaming with me, but nonetheless, we did enjoy what was a beautiful few days, some festivities there. One gentleman who took the 2024 Iron Mike Missouri Award was Sting. Now, I know that you spent time with Sting in WCW. Paul, if you'd have heard his speech, you would have been, upstanding ovation. I mean, he took the time, Paul, to really talk about getting out of addictions and giving his life to Christ and helping others. He spent the majority of his time talking about that. And a little tidbit. So right after, our good friend, our mutual friend, Mr. Jesse Hernandez, was there with me. He took me up to meet Sting. I'd never met Sting before. So I went up and shook his hand and I said, Sting, thank you so much for talking about the Lord, my brother. And he lit up. He was probably expecting me to talk about wrestling or something else.
Sure, sure.
And he lit up and he started talking. He's like, yeah, he goes, when I first started talking, he goes, my mouth was dry and I didn't know what to say. But then when I started talking about my faith, I forgot about this. God just gave me the words and he lit up, man. And Lex Luger was there with him. I met Lex as well. Again, talked about our faith. But what are some of your memories of the Sting that you knew back in 93, 94? How was your relationship with Sting?
I thought it was fairly decent.
Yeah.
We traveled a lot together. And I remember just sitting and having dinner with him,
Mhm.
with Marcus, with Bagwell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And just constantly joking.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just constant jokes all the time with these guys. I don't think that I maybe one serious moment, maybe a
Yeah.
serious moment. Yeah, just a super nice guy. I mean, I never had an issue with him
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You
No,
know, super nice guy.
Super nice guy. And then guess what? He made a comeback literally a few days after. I can't believe it. Sting, I think he's about 65 now. And a few days after the CAC, Paul, he's walking down the ramp at Wembley Stadium for AEW All In.
Okay.
He made it come again. He's coming back for I think he's got an angle with Darby Allin. They're doing an angle right now. So
Okay.
he's back in the equation. But speaking of Marcus Bagwell, Paul, so Marcus was there. I had a great chat with him and his girlfriend, my wife and I did. He won the 2024 Men's Wrestling Honorary Award. And you talk about now going back to what we talked about, wrestlers being addicted. So Marcus was addicted to alcohol and drugs for the better part of out of the last 24, the last 20 years or 22 years. Once his wrestling career was over, he thought his whole life was over. And he went on a downward spiral that ended, like I said, I think it was 2 years ago. Paul, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with what Diamond Dallas Page helped him get back on track?
Um, I didn't know. Well, he had told me. I saw him at an autograph show,
Hmm.
and Bagwell and I, we had a rough patch.
Mhm.
When he was with Too Cold Scorpio.
Yeah.
Uh, since I and Paul were the veterans, we were called match.
Mhm.
And he'd be like, come on, come over here, come over here. He'd pulling on my arm. I said, dude, stop.
Mhm.
This is what we're doing. And he just wanted to be forceful. And again, you could call it Paul being a jerk, but I wasn't moving. And
Mhm.
you're not going to move me
Yeah.
because we're doing what I'm going to do, what I want to do, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, he was difficult to work with. Too Cold was easy to work with. In one match, we actually kept Too Cold on the apron. He never got in the ring
Okay.
till the last, I think, minute.
Yeah.
And we just kept Bagwell in, and we did everything with him and just beat him up, basically. not in a vicious way, but what
Yeah.
we call beating someone up in wrestling, humiliating him,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
giving him anything to do.
Yeah.
I had Paul got in the ring and I said, bring him over here. And he brought him over to me and I reached through the ropes and kicked him right in the chest and hard.
Yeah.
And then when we got done, we got in the locker room, he was sitting in a chair and I walked up on him and I said, listen to me. I said, I'm calling the show.
Mhm.
I said, when I tell you to do something, you do it.
Mhm.
So it's not for you to open up your mouth. You're there to listen to what we tell you to do. You understand?
Yeah.
And he just looked up at me and kind of nodded and I walked away because I didn't tolerate things like that.
Mhm.
But again, that's what got me in trouble a lot with the guys too,
Yeah.
because um they try to keep it on the down low, so to speak. Um, when I saw Bagwell at the autograph show, I was happy to see him.
Yeah.
Ran over to him, not ran, but walked over to him, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he introduced me to his girlfriend, I believe it is, his
Yeah.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
and him and I started talking, and he had, it, I saw him in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he went to do something. His girlfriend was talking to me and telling me some things, and then he came back and we talked some more. And I just saw a different person, a,
Mhm.
a, a good person,
Yeah.
not that jerk
Mhm.
that was back in the day that
Mhm.
didn't listen, that knew everything. Maybe people thought that about me too at the time. So
Well,
so I got it. I understood him,
yeah.
and he got it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I think I even said to him, I said, you know what? I'm really glad that you are like you are right now
Yeah.
because, you've changed. And I'm going to tell you, you changed for the better.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And she had told me that she was looking out for him. And,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really good
Yeah.
that she was doing that. So, for you to tell me that he won an award, that's great. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really nice that it happened to him.
No, it was a great experience. I interviewed him for the first time we met back, I think, in April of this year. So that was the first time I met him in person. But he was great to me. He was very he gave me advice for some certain things. He went and introduced me to Jimmy Hart. So he walked me over to Jimmy and I met Jimmy and he was just and he like I said, his girlfriend was nice to my wife. We had great
Yep.
conversations. They came over to us even after and everything. And like I said, just like Sting, he gave his glory to Jesus Christ during his speech, and it to me that sets everything on fire because again, you're in a sport, a profession where it's about egos, it's about you. But then when you hear the humility come out, and you guys have a captive audience because you
Yep.
grew up and you made an impression on guys who were 10 years old at the time, 15, 12, 13. And we're not going to forget that. It's not like it's just going to go away. That's part of our childhood. That's part of our adolescence. So when you come out and you're humble now at a different point in life, and you've gained this wisdom, it goes back to what you said, Paul, giving back, doing something positive with the platform that you've been given. And that's what it's all about. So, but Paul, I wanted to jump on to the announcer honorary award. This year, that was given to another gentleman that I'm sure you're familiar with, Jim Ross. So,
Yes.
Jim, who's again still working in the business today. I mean, it's incredible. I never thought that anybody, Paul, would ever replace Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura, or Bobby Heenan on the mic. Never thought it would happen. But Jim Ross has succeeded over these years. But what was it like working with a younger Jim Ross when you and he were in WCW?
I didn't I didn't have the real opportunity to work with him.
Okay.
Um all I know is that when I meet somebody, that first impression is a very important impression. When I shake their hand, do they look me in my eyes? If they're looking away, I don't trust them.
Right.
It's just how I was brought up. And so anytime I see him, I go over to him. I don't wait for him to come to me.
Mhm.
I go to him
Yeah.
and I just, how you doing? How's everything? Blah, blah, blah. Short, sweet, done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. And then I go about my business.
Yeah.
go back to my table or whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that was me.
Yeah.
He's a legend. I
Yeah.
mean, what more can you say about the guy? He's a legend.
Yeah. He is a
You
legend.
know?
He's very good
Yeah.
at what he does. But I will ask you, and I'll give my opinion too, because this is the truth. I think Jim Ross is a great color commentator. I personally will always lean towards like the combo of Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. I think they were, I don't think you can get better than that. I think Bobby Heenan is on par with that. But for you, Paul, of all the guys you listen to calling wrestling, who is your favorite?
Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bobby.
Yeah.
I just I thought he was the very best.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. Gorilla and those guys were a great duo.
Yeah.
They gelled,
Yeah.
right? They gelled.
Yeah.
Bobby was just, it was really strange. Bobby, in one of my matches, and believe this, people believe this if you will.
Mhm.
This is how well I knew Bobby.
Yeah.
In my match, as I was doing things, I said, if I do this, I know what Bobby's going to say.
Mhm.
And when I watched the match later on and listened to what Bobby had to say, as God is my witness, it's exactly what I thought he would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just knew him so well.
Yeah.
What is Roma doing? Why isn't he covering him? I knew
Yeah.
that's what he would say. And I wanted that to be said
Yeah.
because I wanted him to make the fans aware that I should be covering this person.
Mhm.
Why am I wasting all this time? Why? Because I wasn't going to pin him. That's why.
Right. Yeah. He did.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Karen. Sorry. I didn't mean to.
no, go on, go on.
No, I was gonna say he definitely called your matches. I do remember one in particular because I think Gorilla Monsoon used to say, "Oh, it's Herc and Jerk." That was it, Herc and
Yes,
Jerk.
yes,
And he said, "No, that's Romeo Roma." You know?
that's right. Yep,
But
yep.
he was friggin' awesome. Him and like I said, Gorilla Monsoon and them. And it really does. It frames a wrestling match. I can honestly say, and again, I don't mean to bash anyone in recent memory, but
No, no.
I don't feel that the guys who do it today are really grasping like Gorilla, Bobby, Jesse, even Vince. They really framed it. You really thought like you were watching the action, but you were also listening to a whole other story going on. It was beautiful.
Yes.
There was a duality between the two. It danced perfectly together. And again, I think what happens is, Paul, that guys who come later always think they know better and they can do better. And sometimes I think the wheel is not broken, so don't try and fix it. I think people need to take note of that.
Yeah. So with what you had to say while the match is going on, you could see the match.
Mhm.
But because they did such a great job at play by play,
Mhm.
they like enforced everything that was going on. So if you slapped the guy, okay, you slapped him. They made you hear and feel that slap.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just had a way about them. And
Yeah.
because they worked off of each other,
Yeah.
it was just, especially with Bobby, it was just a comedy act.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was so entertaining. It really was so entertaining.
Yeah.
And you know what? It saddened me when I saw Bobby
Mhm.
after he had cancer.
Mhm.
Um, it was just
Yeah.
I had to fight back tears.
Yeah. It was very sad.
I just went over to him and gave him a little hug, and I didn't know it was him.
Mhm.
Because I said, hey, they said Bobby's here. Where's Bobby? It says, oh, he's over there.
Mhm.
So I left my table and I went over and I'm looking for Bobby.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hey, where's Bobby Heenan? They're like, oh, he's right there. And
Mhm.
I look and I'm like, oh, that's not Bobby.
Mhm.
And I look again and I was like, that's Bobby.
Mhm. Mhm.
Cancer just took
Yeah.
it from him,
Yeah.
changed him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sad moments.
Mhm.
Seeing these guys pass away
Mhm.
or hearing that they've passed away.
Yeah.
And I don't deal with I don't believe I deal with death like most people.
Hmm.
I deal with death in a different way.
Hmm.
I don't, I obviously I'll slip up,
Hmm.
but I try not to talk about people in the past.
Right. Yeah.
So when I talk about Hercules, I talk about him now.
Yeah.
I don't say, well, I loved him.
Hmm.
I say I love him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, they're still here,
Hmm.
just not physically
Hmm.
being able to see them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I believe. And also with, like funerals, only there's certain ones, and people are going to say, well, what do maybe I'm not that important to you. No, that's not the case.
Hmm.
My baby sister, when she passed away, out of respect for my dad, I had to be there.
Hmm.
But I want to remember people alive as they were, the fun
Hmm.
of them.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see my sister laying there,
Hmm.
lifeless,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know? So I don't do funerals.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
try to avoid them. I want to remember you as you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my father taught me that lesson when he had come down with cancer.
Hmm.
Um, he solidified it for me. And in the very beginning, I didn't get it.
Hmm.
And then I got it. So my father's that happy-go-lucky, always joking around, making people laugh, get into arguments too. I mean, he was set in his ways, which is great. But I always really saw him on the golf course all the time. We had 23 golfers. We had a monster crew, and we always had fun.
Hmm.
And he couldn't play golf anymore because he didn't have the strength.
Hmm.
And he wouldn't allow anybody, any of his friends, to come over and visit him. And I didn't quite understand in the beginning why. And then it dawned on me because he wants them to remember him as he was,
Yeah.
not as he is now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get it with me. So, my really, really close friends, and some that aren't that close,
Hmm.
they understand.
Hmm.
I'm not doing it out of disrespect. I'll go to the church,
Yeah.
when you have a prayer for them, not a problem.
Hmm.
I don't want to see them in a casket.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to go to the funeral home. I just don't need to do that. I
Yeah.
want to, if I know them, I want to remember them as their cherry selves.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If
I,
you get it, that's great. And if you don't get it, I apologize. I'm sorry.
I would tendency to agree with you on that one, Paul. My grandmother passed away, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before. She was 92 almost. She was going to be 92. But she was, she came down with Alzheimer's, dementia, about 7 years ago. She was in a nursing home for 6 years in the United Kingdom. So she'd been taken
Wow.
away from my granddad who lived with my mom. And, but she passed in her sleep. We knew that it was, and I said to my mom, I said, I just remember, I call her Nana, Nana, and I call her Nana. I said, I just remember her for the good times, when she was healthy, when she was cooking, cleaning, when she was running around, when she took me, and again, like you, Paul, and with our faith, with our faith in the Lord, in Christ, I know that, they're not dead from existence. They do exist. They have existed. They will continue to exist. We all do, And so, and when we first talked, when we first did the interview with you, Paul, and you said, yeah, you talk about them in the present tense. I thought about that because I'd never heard that before. But you're absolutely right because they're not gone. The things they
No.
didn't do are not gone. Even with technology, you can see them right after this if you want, click on a video or a photograph, they're
Right.
gone. They're the essence of who they were. Their spirit continues. Their soul is just in a different place. So I agree with you on that, Paul. But
Yeah.
so Paul, that will mark episode 2 of Power and Glory. We hope that you all enjoyed that. We encourage you to subscribe to the channel, like these videos, share these videos, because it's going to help us get these messages out to entertain more people and educate more people all around the world. You can also see now we just created the short shocks Power and Glory, the short shocks. So you're going to see segments of these episodes broken up. If you don't have an hour to watch a full episode, you can go back and watch segments from each of these videos. But next month, it's looking very likely that we will have a guest joining us, but we will keep you updated. So keep an eye on our Facebook page, on Paul Roma's personal Facebook page, and of course, the YouTube channel and other various sites, social media platforms you can find us. Paul, have you got any closing words for our audience?
Yes, Amir, like you, like me, like them, I enjoyed this show. I hope they did.
Yep.
I'm sure they did.
Yep.
And I hope they just spread it out there to everybody. If there's any questions that they have, like you just said, they can write in and we'll be more than happy to answer them. If there's something they want to have on our show, we'll do our best to do that.
Yeah. It's a good thing, Paul. Yeah, if there's any fan out there that has a vested interest in what we're doing, or is a fan of Paul, just write in, let us know. That could be a first. Yeah, I don't see many other shows that have fans come on. Yeah, that's a very good idea.
And let me tell you something. This guy, people, Amir can get things done. All right. So if anybody can get it done, he can.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, actually, thank the good Lord, because I get all my energy from him. So amen to that. Amen. All right. So Paul, stay on the line, but I'll say goodbye to everybody now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another powerful hour of truth here with Paul Roma. This has been the Power and Glory, the podcast. Until next time, take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.